Throughout Texas history, many unusual men have become a part of your Masonic heritage. The amazing Anthony Butler, our fourth Grand Master, and earlier a Grand Master of Kentucky, whose career is too incredible to believe, and who lost his life trying to save a lady in a fire that destroyed the paddle wheel steamer General Pike on the Mississippi River. George Moffett Patrick, the only man to be elected to 2 terms as your Grand Master, and who was once thrown into the Cibolo River to cure a raging fever. It worked. Thomas J. Hardiman, Grand Master in 1850, who loved Masonry so much that when he built his new home on the Colorado River near Smithville and Bastrop, he built a lodge room on the 2nd floor. That fantastic Texas pioneer, Rich Coffee of the Concho, who must have spent half of his life running from Indian attacks. The first permanent settler of the lower Concho country, he regularly rode 50 miles one way to attend Brownwood Lodge. The surprising J. Pinckney Henderson, our first governor, who at age 28 was a general in the Texas Republic, Attorney General, Secretary of State, and diplomatic agent to England and France, all in 1 year. And those 3 wise men, Taylor, Hamilton, and Lightfoot, they have given you a tremendous heritage in the perfection of our beautiful ritual. And don't forget that disgruntled past master who stole the charter of old Sam Houston 32 in 1855. Unhappy at being suspended for un-Masonic conduct, he decided that if he couldn't have Masonic communication, neither could anybody else. The charter showed up sometime later, and all was well again. From every corner of this great state have come Freemasons who met the challenge, who helped to give you your heritage. Old-time family doctors like Dr. S.M. Brown at Keachai, who was called to ride to a brother near death following a tremendous storm, removing his clothes and holding his medical kit high above his head. He twice swam swollen and raging Buffalo Creek. The brother survived, and Dr. Brother Brown lives forever in the memories of the brethren of Buffalo Lodge. George Morgan? Who was George Morgan? Ask a member of old Clarendon Lodge. A Grand Master, to be sure, but more than that, he helped organize 19 lodges in the Panhandle, was district deputy for 10 years, and served on 13 Grand Lodge committees. And modern district deputies should hark to the report of that deputy in the 1870s who wrote, "I have visited all lodges in my district, traveling by horse and buggy, something more than 500 miles over generally rough and mountainous terrain." And hear the story of a gentleman and Mason, Brother L.A. Pyres, who left much of his large estate for Texas Masonic good, and to whose memory the Masons of Dallas built this striking monument. And did you know that almost 100 of our Texas counties are named for men who were Masons? Craftsmen, your heritage is everywhere you look. In the letter G of every lodge you visit. Look around you, my brethren. In a very old lodge building at Chalk Mountain, in an unusual converted church at Gordon, a Masonic cemetery in the heart of bustling Dallas, and hidden in the wilderness near the old frontier town of Hondo, an upside-down Masonic emblem on a crumbling gravestone. A beautifully crafted winding stairway in the lodge at Corsicana. A forgotten, forlorn little lodge building near Jacksonville. In a mural-filled lodge room in the Pioneer Lodge at Lavernia, Old Brahan 226, the second oldest Texas lodge building in point of continual use and a source of great pride and pleasure to member and visitor alike. In the fascinating hand-formed ceiling of the lodge at Beeville, and a remarkable stack-away fellowcraft stairway in Old Morton 72 at Richmond. In the lodge at Sonora, named for the daughters of the first master, Dee and Ora. The Ora Lodge. In a large and beautiful mosaic emblem, the pride of Midland Lodge. In another kind of fellowcraft stairway, this one laid into the lodge room floor of San Antonio's Texas 8. In the same town, the birthplace of Masonry in West Texas, where 100+ years ago, Alamo Lodge 44 actually met. Yes, in the Alamo. In Old Milam Lodge, steeped in tradition, where sits the 12th chair of 1837. Occupied only by governors, presidents, and grand masters. And climbs still another winding stairway, beautifully built into Houston's Walter Pearson Lodge. Watch their very deep pride in their masonry in action. Walk amid the shot and shell of Galveston Bay of 1863. The body of Captain Wainwright of the Union ship the Harriet Lane is carried ashore. Join Harmony Lodge as it convenes to bury the dead sailor, Union and Confederate brethren standing shoulder to shoulder. Stroll in Houston's quiet Glenwood Cemetery. Where sleep at least 10 of your Texas past Grand Masters. Stand on an empty beach on the Gulf Coast, where once stood the bustling port of Indianola. And watch in your mind's eye those two savage hurricanes that sealed the doom of both the city and its active Masonic lodge. But your Masonic heritage lives on. Travel deep into the Magic Valley to famous old San Benito, the Rocking Chair Lodge, where no tomcat would ever dare to venture. Open your eyes. Look beyond the obvious. In dozens of cities, villages, and towns, wherever you see a public building, you'll probably see a Masonic cornerstone, a Masonic story. The Capitol building of your great state, the University of Texas, Masonic lodges, your Grand Lodge. At least 115 Texas county courthouses reflect the fact that you, craftsmen, were there. And don't forget that most famous cornerstone at Eastland, where old Rip the Horned Toad slept for 31 years. Read the affidavits that prove that Judge and Brother Ernest Wood put the toad in the cornerstone in 1897, that Eugene Day lifted him out in 1928 in the presence of 3,000 people. Methodist preacher Frank Singleton held him up, and he wiggled, and he lived. A Masonic horned toad that will share your heritage forever. Follow your Texas heritage far beyond the boundaries of your state. To a 1918 battlefield in France, where amid the cannon's boom, William Leon Culberson opened Hillsborough Lodge to conduct the funeral of several of his fallen Masonic brethren. To far-off Glasgow Cathedral in Scotland, where Archibald St. Clair Ruthven, your Grand Master in 1846 and later Grand Secretary, lies in the necropolis of the cathedral, also honored by the Scots as a part of their heritage. To Washington, D.C., where a copy of your Texas Grand Lodge Constitution lies deep in the cornerstone of the Washington Monument, placed there on July the 4th, 1848. And a few miles away in Alexandria, Virginia, where on May 9th, 1932, your Grand Lodge met in its only communication ever held outside the state of Texas. It was the history-making very first meeting of any Grand Lodge in the new George Washington Masonic National Memorial. Imagine, if you can, 115 Texas Masons, more used to Levi's and boots, marching up Shooter's Hill, all decked out in top hats and tails. Quite a sight, quite a heritage. Back to a nearby corner of Oklahoma, where two lodges stand that once belonged to Texas. Altus and Mangum Lodges and Greer County started life in Texas, but the Supreme Court in 1896 moved the boundary of Texas a few miles to the south, and 77 Texas Masons became Oklahoma Masons by court decision. Then go with us to Nashville, Tennessee, where Jimmy Rogers, the father of country music, lives forever as the first member elected to the Country Music Hall of Fame. Initiated, passed, and raised in San Antonio's Bluebonnet Lodge, Jimmy Rogers has also been honored as the subject of a United States commemorative postage stamp. And no account of our Texas heritage in far-off places would be complete without a visit to outer space. For even there, you have Masonically established Texas territory. Grandmaster Guy Smith deputized Colonel Edwin Buzz Aldrin of Clear Lake Lodge to establish Texas jurisdiction on the moon. And with Apollo 11 in July 1969, your Masonic heritage became permanently planted on the moon, itself an ancient Masonic symbol. Shucks, folks, we've got lots of unusual Masonic stories right here in our own backyard. Like the burning of Union Schoolhouse, home of Onion Creek Lodge, by Indians. Unusual? No, not the burning, but the reason was the Indians complained that pale-faces with aprons were holding too many night powwows, evidently disturbing their sleep. And stories abound of Indians who had knowledge of Masonic signs and secrets. Typical is the tale of the Mason traveling across West Texas in his freight wagon, who was suddenly jumped by a pack of howling braves. Frightened, almost paralyzed, knowing he was about to die, and probably more in prayer than in remembrance of things Masonic, he lifted his hands to heaven to await the blows. Suddenly, the Indian leader stopped his warriors, uttered several cries, gave several signs, none recognizable, and led his braves away. The Mason almost died from the shock of relief. Many lodges have stories of unusual or large families in Masonry. Eureka Lodge had a father and 6 sons. Plano once had 6 living past masters named Houston, Hughston. At Mount Vernon, 7 blood brothers named Brooks conferred the EA on their 8th blood brother. And in Anson Jones Lodge, 10 members of one family combined to initiate 2 other family members. There are many more. Finally, at Kelly Lodge in San Antonio, who will forget the time the lodge was bombed? It happened in 1923, when a practice bomb got away from an Army airplane. It is recorded the lodge voted not to present a bill for damages to the government, perhaps fearing that mountain of red tape. Texas craftsmen, we have traveled from east to west, across the seas and into space to catch glimpses of your Masonic heritage. Now come with us to the modern roots of your great fraternity, near the banks of the Brazos River, to that magnificent edifice in old Waco town. Have you ever seen your Grand Lodge? You may have been there, but have you really seen it? Visit it again, slowly. Study it. Walk around it. Stroll through its cathedral quiet, lovely marble halls. Drink in its majestic beauty. Gaze at it in careful, unhurried detail. Enjoy this, your building. Live the heritage it represents. Wander through your library. Read your books and manuscripts.